All right, let's give you 1 more minute to sign up for these games. Currently, we have 12 students signed up for the games already. So I'm waiting for a couple more students sign up for the games. So if you're using the smartphone to watch the game, watch the videos of this class, you can try to maybe have another tablet or computers. You can just use that to participate to these games. What you need to do, you could do is you can download the Kahoot app to your smartphone. Or if you don't want to download it, you could just go and search Kahoot.iet, and then you just go and put these game names over there, and you should be able to participate to today's games. All right. Okay, let's start. As I said, it's a great extra credit opportunities for you. For students who finish in top threes, we'll be able to get the extra credit for participating in these games. Okay, so let's start. Okay, I have 5 questions. Okay, first questions. Which of the following strategies has only been utilized in professional sports league in Europe? You have 20 seconds. All right, all 13 answer has been collected. Okay, we've seen 6 students answer that correctly. Right, CAT international players is the only strategy has been utilized by professional sports league in Europe. So in the professional sports league in the US, we don't normally cap international player. Basically, we have all the best player will be able to have them play in the league. But in Europe, they do cap international players. Okay, so this is the first question. Okay, after the first game, you can see this is what the current rankings, top 5 students already show on the screen. All right, next questions. Which of the following financial resources differentiate US professional sports league and European sports league? First one is the ticket revenue, second is a broadcasting revenue, jersey sponsorships, and the last one is a transfer fee. Okay, we got all the answer. All right, 6 students answered that correctly. Okay, so compared to American professional sports league, European professional sports league, they're able to generate revenue from transfer fee. And the US, the player transfer from one team to the other. Normally, they don't pay transfer teams between different teams. They normally change like the players, right? Or some players' contract is, and they're able to free join to another team. So they don't normally pay transfer fee between different teams, so they're not be able to generate revenue from that resources. Okay, so that's the second questions. So after the first 2 questions, this is what the current ranking, right? Caroline's still leading. It seems like Caroline's the only participant who's able to answer both questions correct. This is the top ranking. Next question. Question number 3. The US Tennis Open is organized by which of the following organization? ITF, ATP, WTA, and USTA. All right. Yeah, we've got 3 students answer that correctly. All right, we talk about tennis have 4 major Grand Slam events. The first one is US Open, Australian Open, French Open, and Wimbledon, right? So all these competition organized by each country's Tennis Association, national sports governing bodies. So the US Open is organized by USTA, ITF, which is International Tennis Federation, ATP is Men's Professional Tennis Association, WTA is Women's Tennis Association. They collaborate together, they work together to help the USTA to make this event possible, but USTA is the one who owns the rights of this competition. All right, 3 students answered that correctly. After the first three questions, you can see the ranking has been changed. Currently still leading. Hunter is currently in the 2nd place, and Zhurui is currently in the 3rd place. All right, next question, 2 more to go, right? Which of the following organizations are the governing bodies for the sports of golf? RNA, PGA Tour, PGA, LPGA Tour, and USGA. All right. Okay, the correct answer is actually both answers are correct. RNA and USGA, both of them are governing body for the golf, right? So they share a different responsibility, they share the roles, and they also have the different strategy. So this is about the question number 4. We see we got 11 students answered that correctly. This is what the current ranking shows you. Currently still leading for the whole time, starting from the first questions, right? Zhira is currently in 2nd place, and Cotton is currently in the 3rd place. One last question. Right? Leon and Hunter are very close right now. One last question. The speed is very important. Okay, last questions. Which of the following statement incorrectly describing the role of the PGA of America and PGA Tour? PGA Tour doesn't really host any of the major tournaments. PGA Americas meaning focus on professional players. PGA Championships hosted by PGA of America. Okay. All the students finished the answers. The PGA Americas is primarily focused on professional players. Is incorrect, right? Because PGA Tour is primarily focused on the professional golf, because this question is you're going to find the incorrect statements. 2 students answered that correctly. We're going to spend a little bit more time talking about the role for each of the sports organization later. Okay, after 5 questions, here is what the final ranking. Okay, Luke is actually at the 3rd place. Lian is on the 2nd place. And Collins is in the 1st place. All of them finish with 3 correct answers. And Zhire is on the 4th place, and Cloton is in the 5th place, right? So great job, right? So this is a little Carhu games. And the next things we're going to talk about is we're going to look at some of the key content for this week. We know the purpose. This week you were asked to do some reading on Tuesday. In these readings and also the video lectures, in the video lectures, we are actually talking about how professional sport has been governed, has been organized in Europe, and how individual sport, professional individual sports are being organized internationally. So now let's going to share this screen with you very quickly, and then we're going to review things we learned this week. Okay, the agenda for this week. So first of all, in the past, we normally review things first, but since this week, something major happened, so we're going to have that discussion first, and then we're going to talk about some quick review about things you guys learned, and also I'm add some new knowledges to you. Last part is a group discussion. I put you guys in a different group, but you guys are able to share and interact with each other. All right. So before we start, I would like to ask you, how many of you actually following soccer, particularly following European soccer? Do we have students following soccer, or you have favorite team that you want to share with us? Anyone know what is the biggest news happened this week?
The Super League.
Okay, Scott, says European Super League. Can you introduce a little bit what is the European Super?
So some of the biggest clubs in Europe tried to like break away from the Champions League. They were sharing a bunch of the money with like every team
Mm-hmm.
that like could have made the Champions League. Instead, they kind of wanted all the money for themselves. So they were gonna make their own league with all like the 12 best teams and just take all the money for themselves and kind of break away.
Very good. And what has happened? I mean, they made an announcement on Monday, on Sunday, right? So what has happened for the league?
It kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
Teams were dropping out because the fans, everyone in like soccer was upset, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's kind of falling apart. Teams are dropping out of the Super League now, so it
Uh-huh.
doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Okay, very, very good. Thank you, Scott, for sharing some of the very basic information with us, sharing some background information about European Super League. So this week, basically the topic in the entire soccer world is about European Super League. Like when I'm using Twitter, like I think there's like number one trend topic is talking about European Super League. A lot of people talking about it and what has happened. What is Super League? European Super League, and why does it happen, and how would this impact all the different stakeholders, and why did it fail only in 2 days? So we're going to talk a little bit about this European Super League. So what's the European Super League? As what Scott just introduced previously, it's basically on Sunday, 12 biggest sports clubs, soccer clubs in Europe, they made an announcement. They decided to launch what they call European Super League. So the Super League, including those 12 clubs, you can see six of them from English Premier League, like pretty well known Arsenal, Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Tottenham. So those are European English Premier League team. We also have Italian teams, AC Milan, Inter Milan, and also Juventus, and also have Spain. The team from Spanish La Liga, Real Madrid and Barcelona. Those basically really they basically get the most well-known team. um, so they decided to organize events called European Super League, try to separate themselves from European championships, right? So their idea is they're going to have a 20 clubs. They're going to organize a tournament which is separate from any other competitions. So every year, this same 20 clubs plays against each others, and they're able to generate some revenues. The benefit for them is they believe this competition will be extremely successful. They believe the winner will be able to get 400 million prize money for just winning the European Super League. Right? Currently, the big surprise prize money for the competitions in sports is UEFA Champions League. Right? If you won the UEFA Champions League, now you'll be able to win up to about $100 million. So basically, participating in this league, winning the titles, you'll be able to get 4 times of the money you'll be receiving from the UEFA Champions League. So those 12 teams, they all want to be part of it. So the whole idea was initiated by the Real Madrid chairman's Florentino Perez. So he believed this is the time for us to have this one. So why did they have the competitions like this? This is not like a new idea, because like in 2000s, about 20 years ago, there were 14 super soccer teams. They established called G4 team. Right, so they have the G4 teams, and they had been planning for an event for years to say, hey, in the future, we need to work together. We need to go and organize competition by ourselves, and then we'll be able to share all the revenues. So we don't have to share revenues with other part, particularly the governing bodies like UEFA champions. UEFA is sharing the governing revenue with them, right? So that's the idea they have. And now, why did they decide to have this European Super League at this point of time? So there are two reasons, right? First reasons is um, because last year was pandemic. You can see all the revenue has been generated by those 12 teams has been declined significantly, right? The number you can see, all these blue numbers are the revenue that generated in 2019, and the revenue that generated in 2020 obviously significantly less than the money that generates in the 2019. So that's why they thought that was not. So we need to go and generate some revenues for other resources, but in the current system, they can't really make more money for other areas. So they decided to create it only separate themselves, and then they'll be able to make more money from that. So that's one reason. Second reason was because UEFA just a few days ago, possibly 10 days ago, they just decided to expand from current 32 teams to 36 teams for Champions League, which means more teams will be come here to share revenues. The revenue will be shared among the team will be less than before. So those teams who have all those great players on that teams, they are going to be share much less money than before. So they're not happy about it. So that's why they would like to have European Super League at this point of time. They want to use this competition to offset some of the deficit in their accounts. So those are the reasons why European Super League they would like to create this point of time. So how will this competition impact all the other stakeholders? So let's look at clubs, how that impact the clubs. So of course, those 20 teams who are planning to be part of the European Champions League, so they would generate a lot of revenues from soccer, right? Because they have brand new competitions, they will be able to negotiate broadcasting right by themselves. They don't have to negotiate by UEFA. Right now, European Championships, right? So UEFA negotiate the broadcasting rights. So they get all the money and they share this money with all these teams who participate in the European Champions League based on their result, right? So of course they want to have their own league, and then they can share everything, revenues from the sponsorship, from the broadcasting, right? So those 220 clubs definitely will be benefit for that. But Europe is a 53 nations. There are 53 nations. Majority of the nation have the national, their domestic soccer league. So a majority of team would not be benefit at all from these professional sports league, because we talk about this closely. These 20 team every day, every year, they're going to play against each other. They're not going to give the opportunity for other people to play. So other people, of course, not happy about this at all. So that is a one things. And the second thing is about fans. For fans' perspective, what do you think for having one more league? Fans would not be impacted much by having the European Super League. The only impact for them maybe is just the ticket price will be very high, because they become a league, they want to charge a very high price, right? So that will be something impact the fans, right? For the Eurofa's perspective, they will be impacted significantly, right? In the past, people pay attention to European Champions League, right? Because that's one of the most important events during the years, most revenue generated events during the years. However, because of the European Super League, so the tension on the European Champions League obviously is much less than before, and they won't be able to generate more revenues, but they impact the value of the brands. Right. And lastly, domestic soccer league like English Premier League, Spanish La Liga, and German Bundesliga, like those leagues will also be impacted by this decision significantly, right? Because in the past, people care about not just who win the title of the league, also care about who finish in top three, top four, because the team finish in top three and top four still have the chance to play at the Champions League. We talk about Champions League, prize money is $100 million for winning the titles, right? A lot of people want to play, a lot of teams want to play, so they would keep investing, keep buying good players. They try to win, right? So that is a domestic. But if you have a European Super League, that means people care less about domestic leagues. People all want to go and watch European Super League, who want to watch domestic soccer leagues, right? And who care about who finish in second place or third place? They only care about who win the titles, right? So the domestic soccer leagues will also become less attractive than before. So now you understand why the Super League, this whole idea, was not working, right? It fell in 48 hours. So on Tuesday, 6 teams from English Premier League decided to withdraw from the European Super League. So this entire idea is not working. So speaking about European Super League, a lot of people criticize this is how some American business try to bring the entire American model to Europe, to try to build up American versions of the soccer league in Europe. It's not working. Why it's not working? We're going to talk a little bit about the fundamental difference between American professional sport and European professional sport, and then you have better understanding about why this idea was not working at all. So first of all, let's look at in the European professional sports league, a team normally have a lot of connection with different levels of the governing bodies. If you watch professional sports in the US, you find out NBA teams, they only associate with the NBA, right? MFL team, they only listen to MFL. They don't listen to any other organizations, right? They only participate in one competition, right? NBA, MFL, MLB, and NHL. That's the only competition they participate in, right? A professional sports league in Europe is different. Bayern Munich, for instance, right? So Bayern Munich have to participate a lot of competition during the year. So they have to participate Bundesliga, which is German soccer league, right? And Bayern Munich also need to be a member of the German Soccer Association. Excuse me, right? Because they also have to participate a cup in their nations, right? And if they finish in top three, top four in Germany, they're able to qualify for UEFA Champions League. UEFA Champions League is organized by UEFA, right? European Soccer Federations. If they finish in the first place in UEFA, they're able to play at the World Championship for the soccer clubs, which is organized by FIFA, right? You think about a professional sports league, professional sports team and club in Europe, they have to participate in multiple different levels of competition. They have interact with a lot of different competition. And also the entire soccer will only follow one rule. This rule is decided by FIFA, right? Think about it. Professional sports league Excel does not really um, cannot really change the rule for the sports, right? Unlike NBA, you'll be able to change the rules, right? MFL, you set the rule by yourself, right? For instance, when I was a kid, maybe 20 years ago, right? The rule international basketball and the NBA's rules completely different. So 20 years ago, international basketball competition, it has the first half and second half. The total time is 40 minutes. NBA has a 4 quarter lap what NBA has right now, right? Just about, I think, 15 years ago, international basketball started to change the rule. They also have the 4 quarters in the international competition. So you can see the rules, NBA set the rule by themselves, right? Really different compared to international basketball's rule. But soccer is different, right? All those soccer matches you watch in the world, either you're here in the US or in Germany, in Spain, in England, you find out you only follow one rule. This rule is set by FIFA. The soccer game, any of the soccer game, 45-minute for the half, right? 90 minutes in total. You have first half and second half, right? You have never seen a soccer game they play 3 quarters, right? So that is uh, the model. So you have to understand the clubs in Europe and club in the US is a very difference, right? Club in the Europe, you have to interact with so many governing body, you have to follow the rules. And also the fascinating thing is about this, right? There's so many different governing body involved, national governing body, regional governing body and international governing body. They collaborate together to put the entire soccer schedule around the world, right? So they need to collaborate, work with each others. So for instance, right, Bundesliga say, oh, we're going to play our games over the weekend. So UEFA Champions League say, oh, we have to play in the middle of the week, right? FIFA, they say, we need to organize some national a friendly match for the national team. So I need those weekend to have no any of the football games. And so others, all the league need to follow their rules. So they collaborate with each other really, really well, and they respect for each other. So that's why how the soccer was able to be organized, right? Okay, after looking at how European soccer leagues been organized, so what makes soccer market different compared to basketball market, compared to football market, compared to like baseball market? The first difference is you have to know soccer is really number one sports in the world, right? So many countries are playing soccer, right? Soccer is number one sport in majority of the countries in the world, right? So the popularity of the sport is no any other sports can compare with, right? So that's one thing makes soccer super unique, so dominant internationally, right? The second thing is, unlike professional sport in the US, a lot of time we only have a one major sport in one particular sport, right? One major league in one particular sport, right? So I'll give you example. NBA is basically the best basketball league in the world, right? Of course, player can also play in like Spanish basketball league or whatever basketball league in other countries, but other countries basketball league, the level of competition can never compare with the NBA. So if you're the best basketball player, that's the only competition you want to compete for, which is the NBA. Right? So you all want to come to the NBA to play to prove that you are one of the best players in the world. Right. So you only got one major league. In Europe, it's different. Soccer is really different, right? In Europe, we talk about five major league. You have La Liga, you have Bundesliga, you have English Premier League, you have a league in Italy, Serie A, you also have a league in France. So these five league or five major leagues in Europe, five major leagues, right? There's so many leagues compete against each other. They compete for everything. They compete for sponsorship, compete for broadcasting right, compete for the best players in the world, compete for the best coaches in the world, compete for best, all the trainers in the world. So they compete for all the different resources. So it's a very open market. We all compete against each other's, right? So that made the soccer really different. The third thing is international competition means so much to the players. So basketball player, they don't really care about what basketball championships, care much less. It's okay. I'm not playing for what championship, winning the title for the country. It's okay, right? But soccer is different. FIFA World Cup is one of two major events in the world. Another one's Olympic Games, as you know, right? Playing for the national team, represent national team, compete in international competition, win the FIFA World Cup is a dream for all soccer player, right? So international competition means so much to them, right? Although they're not making money to play for the national teams, not making much money, right? So a lot of Europeans, the club, they complain. They say we pay players salaries, player make big salary from us, right? But players still want to play for the national team. A lot of clubs say we don't want to support that systems. We don't want the player to play in the national teams. We want them to play only for the club because we pay for them salaries. So that's also very different. International competition means so much to these players. And also player have great bargaining powers, right? We talk about in Europe, US, we have salary cap, but in Europe, they don't have salary cap, which means in order to have the best player on the team, we can pay as much as we want. We can give them very high salary, very competitive, make sure we have all the best players in the team. All right. So give you an example, because we talk about multiple different league involved this process. We all compete against each other. We try to become the best. Right. So give you example. So Leo Messi basically arguably the most popular, the most well-known soccer stars in the world right now, right? You people say Cristiano Ronaldo is, yeah, I think both of them are fantastic, right? So Leo Messi currently playing Barcelona, has been playing Barcelona for more than 20 years, right? A lot of rumor this season, last season, this season about whether Leo Messi would like to lead the Barcelona, join the different teams, right? Currently, Barcelona give Leo Messi very decent salary, right? Another team's also interesting having Leo Messi. One is Manchester City, another one is Paris PSG, right? So if Barcelona won't be able to pay for that salary, and other teams also want to pay for their salaries, right? They can compete for that, right? Because they don't have a salary cap, right? They don't have the limit, right? So this is why the player have a greater bargaining power. We talk about on Tuesday, the Bosman ruling really give the power to the players. By the time the end of the season, they can ask for higher price for their salaries. Otherwise, the club will lose the money, right? If the club cannot renew the contract with the players, and the player have to transfer to the other team at the end of the contract, the club cannot get anything, right? The club club obviously want to have the transfer fee if they cannot renew the contract with the player. So if Barcelona cannot renew the contract with Leo Messi, of course they want to sell Leo Messi for a good price, get the transfer fee, and then they're able to buy other players. Otherwise, you lose Leo Messi. Basically, you lose all the money. Of course, you don't want that. So, people have a great bargaining power, and that's why their salary are very, very high in soccer. Okay. In this way, we spent a lot of time talking about the models differences between European sports and American sports. And what are the fundamental differences in European sport, American sport in terms of organization? The first one is how they understand league is very differently. So what is a league? League is a group of teams that play against each other. Right, in the US, we only have a league. Governing body barely have a huge impact on the league. In Europe, it's different. Governing body have huge impacts in this particular sports league, right? So, and also in Europe, league can also organize by governing body, like UEFA Champions League. So they organize by the governing body. Governing body generate revenue by themselves and share this revenue with the teams, right? So governing body and professional sports organizations, they are combined together in Europe. So in the US, they're separate, right? NBA is NBA, US Basketball Association, which is a national governing body, is a separate governing body. So the NBA, they have a collaborate relationship, but they're separate. In Europe, it's different, right? We talk about Manchester United. You need to become members of uh, called Football Association, which is England Football Association. You need to become member first, and then you can play professional sports league in England. So they're connected with each other. So that's one thing is kind of different. Second thing different is obviously we talk about open structure and closed structures, right? Open structure, that means you need to have a multiple different league connect together that you can have open structure. The team finished on top will be able to promote to the upper level. The team finished in the bottom will be delegated to lower levels, right? This is called promotion and relegations assistance, right? In the US, we have a closed structure. So 30 teams in the league, 32 teams in the league. So we keep those teams. We have major league and minor league, but major league and minor league not connected with each other, right? They're not using promotion relegations system. So that is the second thing difference. The third thing I would say the fundamental difference is because of the system they're using. Club system and league system is different. So the entire European sport, they found in the club system. The US found in the league systems, right? So what is the club system? The idea of the club system started in the middle of the 17th century, 18th century. So the club systems, so at that time, as after the first industrial revolution, a lot of business they really like to build up their own systems. So they have a lot of free time, so they create a clubs and they started to organize some sort of competition in the clubs, right? And so this is how the system has been organized. So this is why the clubs is being organized play such an important role in so and then they started organizing some competition and then it's the league. So it took them about 115 years in order to develop from a club to a league. So the basic rule for the club is to play a very important role. In the US is different, right? We call all the team, we call them what? Franchise. What does it mean by franchise? You need to have a license first, and then you can have franchise, right? So in each of the territory, you only can have one teams, right? That's why we have a territory, right? In Europe, no, you don't have a territory, right? So if you go to London, you find out they possibly have more than like 15 soccer clubs there, right? They compete against each other to fight for their own rights over there. But US sports is based on what we call league system, league structure, right? So anyone know what the first professional sports league in the US? That was National League. It was founded in 1876, right? So we found it very long time. So everything we think about from the league perspective. We have to keep the balance between different teams. We make sure not one team taking too much advantage over the other teams in the league. So everything we think about is the league, the way how we can organize the league. But in Europe, it's different, right? Everyone's think about the clubs, right? Everything's starting from the clubs. Okay, so club and franchise is not the same things, right? So this is about the differences. So I didn't actually have the chance to talk about these topics in the Tuesday's lectures. We know we have five major professional soccer league in Europe, right? People always would like to know about the differences between the different league. I always say all the different club manage it in a different way. In the US, basically all the club manage in the same way. We're all using private ownerships models, right? European business models can be classified into two types. One is corporate business model, right? The another one is a membership model. What's a corporate business model? Corporate business model have two types. One is called lease company. So the team is in the stock markets, right? When the team is in the stock market, they are able to use investors' money to develop their teams, right? So they give them a great opportunities, but they also need to release their financial report to the general public because general public need to know whether the investor need to know whether the team is making money or not, right? So that's called lease company. So the first team in the stock market is Tottenham. So they was in the stock market in 1986. Manchester United and some Juventus, some other teams also in the stock market. The second type of ownership is called corporate ownerships, right? So it's similar to what the ownership here in US is basically owned by the private business, right? The examples like Manchester City, Chelsea, and also Paris PSG, right? So for the private ownerships, if you're lucky that you have a really wealthy owner, the team will be able to develop really well. So one of the examples is Chelsea, right? Chelsea didn't have a lot of success in the past, but since 2003, the Russian billionaires Ibrahimovic decided to purchase Chelsea. So Chelsea and became really a very strong team, winning the English Premier League and winning a lot of different kind of competitions because you have a very good investor, really wealthy businessman supporting the team. So you have all this money to build up your team. Right now, Manchester City is also the example, right? It's doing really well, leading in English Premier League, very likely to win the English Premier League this year. Paris, PSG is also doing phenomenally, right? Both of these teams, they're owned by wealthy businessmen in Middle East, right? So for in Europe, you find out most of those teams, they can own by the foreign investors. If you look at English Premier League, 20 teams, nearly half of them owned by American businessmen, right? So this is about traditional corporate business model. Another model is called membership model. So this model is talking about the team is owned by the public, particularly owned by members. So they're non-for-profits. So they're trying to be very conservative. So in terms of the public-owned model, so there are two different types. One type is common in Germany, one type common in Spain. In Germany, we have a 50 plus 1 rule. What is a 50 plus 1 rule? So 50 plus 1 rule is talking about in the past, all those clubs in Germany, they need to own by a public organizations, right? The 50 plus 1 rule is since 1980s, since 1990s. They passed a law allowed the private investor to put their monies into these professional soccer clubs in Germany, right? However, the money they put into, they can only get less than 50% of the ownerships. So which means they need to make sure all the teams still owned by the public, right? But private investors, they're able to put their monies into the teams, right? So those are the called 50 plus 1 rules. So that's why German soccer league in Germany has been considered as the most healthy sports league in the world because On one hand, they welcome investor. On the other hand, they controlled over spendings, right? Still making sure the league is owned by publics, right? So that is the model in Germany. A lot of other leagues, they're trying to use a similar model that what Germany has been building. Uh, that's one example. Another one is in Spain, they're also using memberships like the clubs like Real Madrid, Barcelona. They are also using the membership models. So Barcelona has how many members? Have about 130,000 members. Right? Each of the member pay 137 euros become the members. So being members, I have the right to vote and determine who is going to be the chairmen of the clubs, how and they are going to contribute to these clubs, right? So in the past, their membership fee on the main revenues for those teams, but now the player are making so much money, these revenue they generate for the memberships not contributing much, right? So you can see their business strategy has also been changed. One of the example is Barcelona. So in the past, in the last 10 years, you can see their jersey sponsors has been changed. At the very beginning, Barcelona do not sell jersey sponsors. Jersey sponsorship. One of the reason is because they say we're public-owned organization. We can't become so commercialized, right? So for many years, their sponsorship is United Nations. At the very beginning, jersey sponsorship, of course, United Nations is not going to pay you money, right, to promote themselves, right? But we know player salary is very, very high right now. The later one, you can see the jersey sponsorship has been changed in the past 10 years, right? They have to pay player salaries. Where could they get this money from? Sponsorship, broadcasting right? So that's why, that's how their business model changed, right? Have a quick summary about American professional sports model and European sports model, right? And the competitive balance, we talk about, they have salary caps, drafts, and in European models, players are transferred freely, promotion and relegation, cap foreign players, main revenue sources in the US, we know broadcasting right, ticket sponsorships, European models, ticket sponsors, title sponsors, sorry, title sponsor ticket revenues like broadcasting rights, they're still the main things, right? The big difference is title sponsors, American professional sports league doesn't have a title sponsors. Transfer is the main revenues, prize money, we talk about it, is also a big revenue for them. Think about it, winning $100 million for winning European Champions League. Do you know how much money to win a Super Bowl? Super Bowls only reward the winning teams $150,000. Not even cannot even compare with that, right? So there's other things is the same as what we discussed. So that is the first topics about professional sports league in Europe. So any questions from you guys? Anyone want to share about your thoughts, questions you might have about European sports models? Okay, the second topic we talk about this week is talk about professional individual sport, right? We talk about professional individual sport like tennis, golf. They organize it in a very different way. They organize as a tour. Professional team sport organized as a league, right? Multiple governing body involved or organizations involved. Tour stop at various sites for the events. I think a lot of times they're still employees, right? Okay, so for the professional tennis and professional golf, there are a lot of governing bodies involved, and I would like to ask you some questions and we'll see whether you guys remember things you learned. We try to have a very clear distinction for all the different governing bodies. The first one is that ATP, WTA, and ITF. So which organization is the governing body for tennis and why? Can anyone answer that question? Can anyone answer that questions?
It's the ITF, right? I don't really know
ITF. Why?
why. I'm not really sure why. I think it's just the largest above like the ATP and WTA, and like since those are split by gender,
Yeah,
uh, it's just is like the ITF is more focused on like the rules of and play of the game.
very good, Crowden. So how can we define whether the organization is a governing body? We can look at whether they're going to set the rule for that sport, right? ITF is International Tennis Federation, so they set the rule. So tennis play 5 sets for male, 3 sets for females. So those rules are set by ITF. They're not set by WTA, not set by ATP. WTA and ATP, they are what? Player association, right? So they lead by the entire players. They're create a tour and they're able to play different kind of tournament. So those are the differences. Right, golf, we talk about different kind of organization, RNA, USGA, PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, and PGF America, right? Can any of you tell me the differences between PGA Tour and PGF America? What are the major differences? Anyone know the differences? Kevin?
I know the PGA Tour, I think they really only focus on the PGA Tour itself, whereas PGA of America, I believe it's 4 other tournaments that they deal, or tours, I mean, that they deal with.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Anyone has like a different opinions? I want to share about your thoughts on that. Haruka.
I think the PGA Tour does the 4 major events, and then PGA of America is for the lower class events.
All right, thank you, Harika. So golf is very complicated, right? So first of all, it has a 2 governing body. One is RNA, another one is the USGA. So USGA basically developed a rule in the US, in Mexico. RNA developed the rules in other part of the world. USGA and RNA collaborate together, so they develop a rule of the golf. Right. So, but if you play in Europe and play in the US, I have one of former students currently is a professional golfer. So he play a European ATP PGA Tour, and also he play a PGA Tour here in the US. He told me basically majority rule the same. So only maybe less than 2% of rule are slightly differences. So most of the rule are the same, but they have 2 governing bodies. Really weird, right? And also for the PGA Tour and PGF America, so in the past they were one organization until 1968, right? Because in the very beginning, some members, they really want to like competing against each other, but some people just want to working at a golf course, teach people how to play golf. So when we have a 2 separate interests, so those people who really want to play for the competition, they decided to create something called PGA Tour. So PGA Tour is mainly organized all different kind of tournament for professional player only. PGF America are focused on those golf professional. They would like to teach people how to play golf, called golf instructors, right? They also, of course, made decisions about golf course designs and also some other rules. So PGA Tour does not organize any of the major. Golf is very complicated. 4 major organized by 4 different organizations. PGF America organized called PGA Championships. Master is organized by the Augusta Golf Clubs, right? US Open is organized by USGA, and also the Open Championship, sometimes we call British Opens, is organized by RNA. So RNA, USGA, and PGF America, each of them organize 1 major, another major organized by Augusta Golf Club. So those are the differences between different organizations in terms of their role and responsibility. I know it's complicated. It takes some time for you to remember and classify them. Okay, the next question we'd like to talk about this week's reading. You guys are asked to read, to think about whether ATP and WTA should be merged together. So what is your opinion after reading these week's readings? How many people think ATP and WTA should be merged and why? How many people think WTA ATP shouldn't be merged and why? Anyone want to share about your opinion, perceptions? I would like to have some female students to participate in this competition. How female tennis can be benefit for that. Ray, Rebecca, what do you think?
I would say it would be beneficial because the female platform for tennis would be a lot bigger then at that point.
Female tennis will benefit because in the future, male and female will be able to play more tournaments, giving female the more opportunities to promote themselves. Yeah, I think that is a good point. Okay, other female students. Samantha, what do you think? Oh, Carolyn, what do you think about?
I think it would be good in the sense that it would make things a lot less complicated for fans, like going between different organizations and the different rules. If everything was standardized, it would make it a lot easier.
Okay, thank you. So does anyone have a very different opinion? They think ATP and WPA shouldn't be merged together and they have some challenges for them to be merged together. Okay, Lama, what do you think? Lama, what do you think? Yeah.
From what I read, I kind of had like mixed signals because it said like when you merge them, obviously like in terms of communication, both platforms kind of come together, so it just makes it more ideal. And like in terms of revenue, all signs kind of pointed north, but at the same time, it did say that it could come with risks because none of that is promised. So I was kind of just had mixed signals. I feel like I kind of have to look more into it before I could really give a decision, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Lama. Okay, so what the benefit when ATP WTA merge together? We talk about revenue generations. When you have two organizations converge to one, of course, you can leverage this when you negotiate the broadcasting contract, sponsorship contract, obviously you can work together, ask for higher money, right? So that's the benefit. Promotion-wise is also very good because men and women tennis play at the same tournaments, and you can reorganize the schedule, make sure they try to place the same tournament. So it's easy for them to sell tickets, easy for them to chat more attentions since you have both part participating together, right? For the fans' perspective, it's also awesome. You'll be able to watch more games, like particular more joy events, men, female joy events, right? For the tournament's perspective could also be good, right? But what the problem and when male female merge them together, and I personally also would think female tennis will be benefit for merge with the tennis together because from promotions perspective, I think that's a smart idea. But what the problem is because ATP and WTA, they are player associations. So player play very important roles here. So whether male top players like Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic can get along with Serena Williams or some other female top stars, right? Ashley Barty, would they be able to get along with each other? We're not quite sure. Even in male tennis, they have some conflict internally. Female tennis, they have conflict internally. So that's hard. And how ATP, WTA be able to collaborate with ITF is also hard. ITF is kind of worried when they merge together because they really create a threat to the role of the ITF. So that's a lot of different things that we have to go and think about whether it's possible for both organizations put together as a one organization. All right. Okay. The next question we would like to ask, we would like to discuss a little bit is about another major issue. Golf tennis, one of the problems for them to have right now is how they're able to let more younger generations to participate, to be part of competitions. So if you watch tennis and golf, some people will say, wow, golf, so long, so boring. Tennis, the two players can play for 11 hours for one games. It's not good for the TV. Who will be able to sit there 11 hours to watch one tennis match, right? since we are living in 21st century, so many information's been flowing around. So how are they going to reach out to the younger generation and making sure you guys become the audience of their sports? Anyone have any ideas about this? How could they reach out to the younger generations? Sam, what do you think? What would be the idea from you?
For having obviously no kids or like less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say a lot of kids are probably shifting to more kind of like I guess more sports that are bigger on the like the national level, like football and basketball, because yeah, I don't know, I guess maybe like the baby boomer generation didn't play as much, so their kids didn't influence their kids as much.
Do you have any idea what strategy could you use to make sure younger people can also pay attention to those sports?
Yeah, I would say it's important to kind of make the PGA or not but the PGA Tour kind of like more public and I, yeah, I guess I don't know, easier access to golf.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Other students, Hunter, what do you think? Do you have any good idea?
I think young kids kind of gravitate to bigger stars a bit more. So I think the sports just need to do a better job of pushing stars, especially since like Federer's winding down and Tiger's basically done.
Yeah, very good point, Hunter. So for the professional individual sport like tennis, golf, star is really play a very important role, right? When you don't have that start, and it's very difficult for you to attract people's attentions, right? So that's why for those sports, they really need to go and identify who's going to be next Tiger Woods, who's going to be next Roger Federer, right? Because Roger Federer, 39 years old, 40 years old, he's about to retire in next year or two, right? Tiger Woods is keep getting injuries, never going to be the same Tiger 10 years ago. So how you be able to keep building up this younger new star, how you be able to promote them, become a superstar, really important to those two sports. Okay, we spent a lot of time talking about professional individual sport, spend time talking about how organized in the Europes. So the last things we're gonna do is I'm gonna put you guys into different room, different breakout room, and I want you guys to go and talk together. All these professional sports team, either they're in Europe's or individual sports, they all try to do one thing is they're trying to expand their market to the US. They're trying to attract more audience here in the US. They're using very different strategy. So the next topic for you need to do is you need to go and talk together to see how you are able to come up with the strategy to promote those sports in the US. Okay, so I'm gonna put you guys in the 4 different group. Group 1, you're gonna talk about German Bundesliga. Group 2, talk about F1. Group 3, we'll talk about Australian Football League. Group 4, we'll talk about Super Rugby. We'll put you guys into 4 different groups. Okay, and then again, we're gonna use the thing that we used last time. Let me see. And I'm gonna stop showing. Okay, again, I'm gonna put the Jamboard link there, and then you guys can start working on different things. All right, now I put you guys in the different breakout room. I'll give you guys about 10 minutes